Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and if you caught my video where I made coasters from the Graphic 45 Charmed paper collection, I mentioned that I would film a separate video creating the box that I plan to gift these coasters in, and this is that video. I'm going to start off by just stamping out my own tissue paper. So I just have some plain tissue paper here, and I've got the Charmed stamp set. I really love that Graphic 45 has started to release coordinating stamp sets with their paper collections because it really allows you to take the very same images that you would find in the paper collection and then create something custom from it, and that way it really coordinates with the rest of your project. So you can make your own tissue paper like I'm doing here. I'm actually stamping this using some Graphic 45 ink. This one is Lovely Lilac. And you can create coordinating cards, you can create your own custom wrapping paper. So there's a lot that you can do, and it seems like the sets generally have a nice combination of some graphics and some sentiments. In this case, I'm just using the Charmed sentiment and then a couple of these little stars that I thought would be really nice as fillers. Here I'm actually stamping with the natural linen ink, and I don't think I would use that again. I think I would stick to tone on tone because my thought was that the natural linen would just watermark the tissue paper, but it actually does impart some of, I guess it's not too surprising because as a hybrid ink, it's a combination of a dye ink and a pigment ink. So you'll actually see some of the ink does permeate the paper, but I'm sure some of it also sits on the surface like a pigment ink would. And so there's a little bit of that antique-y linen color that does come through. So I think it's better just to stay tone on tone, which was my original plan, and I think that ended up looking better. I did stamp out a second sheet of tissue paper from some darker purple, and you'll see that later at the end. It's basically the same process, but instead I used the Boo sentiment. So here is the box, and for the base of the box, I have two dimensions that you see here. Just in case you're using papers that are smaller than 12 by 12. If you have 12 by 12 papers like the patterns and solids that I'm using for my box, then you can use the same dimensions as what I have here. So it's 9 5/8 by 9 5/8, and on each of the four edges I've scored at 1.5 and 3 inches. So that's 1.5 and 3 inches on all four edges. And here I'm going to trim off the corners, but I will leave glue tabs, 4 glue tabs, so that these sides can actually attach to one another. And this style of box is what's called a reinforced box. So the sides will actually be doubled up, and that makes for a nice and strong and sturdy box. So here you can see I'm just sort of cutting miter cuts on this glue tab here. And I've tried to cut this in such a way that I can preserve as large of a corner piece as possible. But once you have all of that cut down, then you just need to fold and burnish on all of the score lines. They're all going to be mountain folds. And be sure to burnish so that you really do get that nice crisp fold. The whole reason to score is so that your paper doesn't crack, but when you burnish, you'll also give it this really nice, very crisp fold as well. And then the last thing I'll do is just take little slivers off of each of these, each end here. The reason for that is being a reinforced box, this flap here is actually going to fold over and double up the sides of the box. So once that's folded in, I want to avoid having a bunch of bulk in the corners when all four flaps fold inward. Similarly, I am going to just take a fly's eyelash off of the bottom of each of these flaps. Again, that's so that once you fold this flap in, it's not scraping the bottom of the box or curling up on the bottom of the box. It'll just sit nice and flush. I don't want to take too much off. I don't want to miter those corners at too severe of an angle or take too much off of the bottom, because from the inside of the box that will be visible. So I still want to keep it as full as possible, but just make it so that there's no bulkiness in the corners and at the bottom. So on the side that will be the front of your box, and if you do have directional paper like I do, for example, all these cats here, there is a direction to them. So I want to make sure that those are oriented the correct way. So bear that in mind when you're identifying the front side of your box. I used my crocodile to just punch a 1/8 inch hole, and you'll see why I do that in a moment here. So I'm gonna use liquid adhesive on my flaps. You could use any strong adhesive that you prefer. I do always like to use a liquid adhesive for constructing boxes, anything 3D, anything interactive, because it's going to be a nice, strong, permanent hold. And it's such a small flap that I've left myself, so I'm really just using my fingers to kind of smear all of that glue so that I get full coverage. You could also use a really strong double-sided adhesive like red line tape or score tape. That would work as well. And on these side flaps, I will actually line these with just a regular double-sided adhesive tape. This isn't my super strong score tape, but that's because I'm actually using it in combination with some liquid adhesive. The reason why I am placing this adhesive here is that I'm trying to actually get the adhesive as close to the outside edges as possible. That allows me to get adhesive all the way to the edges, and that way you don't have lifting at those edges. And when I go to apply my liquid adhesive, I can just squiggle some on in the center, and I don't have to worry about getting that all the way to the edge or having any of that liquid adhesive kind of ooze out from the sides. So that's often what I prefer to do on large panels like this, is to line the outside edges with a double-sided adhesive and then just squiggle on some liquid adhesive in the center. My liquid adhesive of choice is Line Coat pH neutral. It's a bookbinding glue, so it's archival, it's acid-free, and all of that good stuff. So it will and it's very inexpensive and affordable. So this panel here is going to reinforce the bottom. So it's been cut to 4 5/8 by 3 5/8, and along the 4 5/8 inch edge, you want to score 1/4 of an inch in on both sides. And once you've scored, I again put some, this is very thin 1/8 inch adhesive. And I'll again line it with a little squiggle of liquid adhesive as well, and I'll fold that in. So we have a nice little decorative edge here. And again, if you are using directional paper like I am, you want to take note of that, because when you attach this, even though it's the bottom, somebody still might kind of flip it under to see what the pattern looks like. So you still want to make sure to line this up so that it looks correct if you do have a paper that has a specific orientation to it. So then I'm just going to attach this to my box, and you'll see that where we folded, there's just that lip, that 1/4 of an inch lip on either side. So that just is a little bit of a nice decorative element. And you'll notice anytime I adhere anything together, I always burnish with a bone folder. And you can see here my coasters are going to fit perfectly inside there. So here's why we punched that 1/8 inch hole. I have some ribbon here. This is actually from the Graphic 45 ribbon pack in the purple colorway. And I think this stretch of ribbon is, I think it's 2 lengths that are 7 inches each. And I just fed the ribbon in from the front into the inside of the box. And then that ribbon does take up a fair amount of the little 1/8 inch hole. But I've got this little grommet here, which I'm going to feed through. And even though this is a grommet which has a washer, I'm actually not going to use the washer because there's some ribbon on the inside. And that's quite a lot of bulk. But that eyelet essentially is going to keep that ribbon nice and secure. So this piece is going to be our lid. This piece you want to cut to 8 1/4 by 4 5/8. Along the 4 5/8 inch edge, you want to score at 1/4 of an inch on both sides. Along the 8 1/4 inch edge, you want to score at 1.5 from one end, and then turn it around, and from the opposite end you want to score it at 1.5 and again at 3 inches. Bearing in mind that the side that has 2 score lines, that's going to be the front of your box. So again, if you do have paper that is directional, you just want to be mindful that the side that has just the one section, 1.5 inch section, that's going to be the top of your paper. And now what I'm doing is just cutting away some excess paper. The 1/4 inch flap that we have there, that's decorative just to match the reinforcement piece that we put at the bottom. So when I trim those, I just cut a little bit away. I don't want to actually miter those corners too severely. I just want to, basically, I just cut away the score line is all I did. That way, when you fold this over, you don't have a lot of bulkiness of trying to fold over a score line. So all I did was just cut the score line out from all of that entire section. But that very last section where we have the 1.5 and then the 3 inch score line, on that 1.5 inch section there where I'm putting adhesive now, I actually cut away the 1/4 inch on both sides of those completely, because again, this is going to be reinforced, so that will fold over and will be reinforced as part of our lid closure. So that's why I trimmed off the side tabs completely. And you saw a moment ago that I lined this up with my box base and just gave a little pencil mark so that I can transfer where that hole is. And this time I actually punched a 3/8 inch hole because I'll put a grommet through that. So this has both the top and the washer. And using my Crop-A-Dial, I'll go ahead and then snap that in or attach that to my paper. So that just reinforces that hole because that will serve as part of the ribbon closure. So you'll be feeding the ribbon through that to open and close this. The last thing to do is actually just attach this top lid panel. So on that, the opposite end from where we put our grommet, you just want to squiggle on a little bit of glue and then attach that to the back of your box. So here's sort of the final packaging. So I'll wrap each of my coasters in the custom tissue paper that I created. And so since some of my coasters are purple, like a darker purple, I'm using the lighter lilac to wrap those. And then I'm using the darker purple to wrap the gold coasters like this one here. So that way you get a sense when you open this that they're similar but different. So it's just such a really nice, fun way of creating everything so that it coordinates. I think as a gift box, this is really fun, but it can also be very practical as a way to store the coasters too, especially these coasters being Halloween. Maybe you don't want to leave it out all year long, and so having a box that you can store it and a box that actually tells you just by looking at the outside tells you, or at least is a nice reminder of actually what's on the inside. So here you can see how I'll package it, and look how cute that is. So I'm super excited to gift this, and I'll definitely be making more resin coasters, probably with some more graphic 45 papers, because they are gorgeous, and I love the idea of immortalizing them in resin. Thanks so much. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.